Something you ought to know about my reviewing order. With a few exceptions, I don't directly pick what my next shows will be. I use a roulette wheel, and frankly, I can be amused by the patterns that crop up. I got 2 shows in a row set in a forest area, where the second plot line is about the characters staying awake as long as humanly, or in one case, beaverly, possible. Welcome to the Showdown. Today's combatants are Episode 1B of the Angry Beavers, Up All Night, and Episode 3 of Total Drama Island, after a 2-part premiere, The Big Sleep. Like I said, this is an odd coincidence that I couldn't pass on pointing out. These shows have very little in common. One's a funny animal cartoon and the other's a parody of reality shows, but I believe variety is the spice of life, and that both these shows used this plot concept to good effect. But since these are both very early episodes, they aren't entirely indicative of what their respective shows are like for most of their runs, which can cost them some points. Which is the more obvious twofer? I'll give the Screaming Beavers a head start as I review Up All Night first. For context, this seems to be Norbert and Daggett's first night at their new dam, so they find it hard to sleep, and coming to the realization that since their parents aren't around to tell them to go to sleep, they decide to stay up all night. The rest of the episode is a very straightforward sequence of gags, which will allow you to get how these characters function in a household setting, since the very first episode, Born to be Beavers, was about them on the road. There isn't much need to give serious thought to the plot here, but I'll compliment it for its escalation. The Beavers' first couple late night activities are pretty run-of-the-mill, prank phone calls, jumping on furniture, watching horror movies, but the punchline for each scene gives the next one the challenge of being a little more exciting. If you ever want to work on cartoons, particularly in the story department, this can make for a good case study. It culminates in them thinking the monster from the movie they're watching, a living spleen, is in the house and is going to attack them.
It's over there!
No, it's over there. See? Getting close.
Over where? It's in our kitchen.
But the sounds they hear are just that of a kitchen sponge. Not the last time one of those is going to cause them trouble.
Our work here is done!
Norb and Dag are pretty good characters here too. They're able to quickly and humorously convey what kind of brothers they are, Norbert being more mature and laid back, and Daggett being more gullible and restless. But although their chemistry here is tight, their banter doesn't have the same improvisational glow as in later episodes. Chalk it up to their voice actors, Nick Bakay and Richard Horvitz, still getting used to their roles. They always did a fantastic job, but the dialogue doesn't have that classic Angry Beavers flavor talk to it yet. So jokes usually feel a little longer, like the laughing fit at the end, which succeeded in making the joke as tired as the Beavers, then making comedy out of that.
Our work here is done!
The ending's also great, where they discovered that they accidentally unplugged their Yahoo clock at some point so it stops ticking forward. Not that unplugging it turns the power off, it just freezes. That's nifty, but also inconvenient because they've apparently been awake for years.
Dag? How long have we been awake?
Up All Night has a legacy of its own within the show, being given a sequel episode in Season 3, and a spiritual successor in Stare and Stare Alike, where Norb and Dag have an unbelievably long staring contest. And even though they represent a more developed show, Up All Night is still a really fun and really comfy episode that's worth your time. So the Screaming Beavers have a good case, but can the killer gas beat them? This is The Big Sleep, the one where Chris gets the contestants to go for a 20k run early in the morning, and then presents them with a buffet as a reward. However, both of these were part of a scheme to get them tired to make their upcoming challenge more interesting, the Awake-a-thon. The challenge in and of itself is nowhere near the most sadistic they'll go through, but the conditions are what sell the stakes, and the contestants are able to put up a pretty good fight. Owen's seemingly the only one to give in by the 12-hour mark, and the finalists last nearly 4 days. All the while I'm just watching this and thinking, man, Ezekiel's at the loser resort all by himself through this whole challenge. And apparently his folks don't know that. Ezekiel's his own can of worms I'll save for a later date. I guess I'm focusing on him because this episode has a lot of characters to juggle, and some fall into the background. It's trying its best though, and there are plenty of seeds planted here that'll impact the rest of the season. Gwen and Trent share some conversations to keep themselves busy, Heather forms her one-sided alliance with Lindsay and Beth, knowing full well they'll be yes women, and it's almost a background gag, but I like Courtney jogging in place to say active. It shows us she's in it to win it now after bombing in the previous challenge. And that's what The Big Sleep is chock full of, little moments of character building, some good, others perplexing. Like when it shifts to a different art style when Tyler hallucinates a bear, and this needs to be said before it's too late. Total Drama is not the classiest show out there. What do you expect? They're Canadian. But these whole bits of Owen sleepwalking naked are honestly the least funny parts of the episode. He's fat, he's like an animal, he farts. Owen usually isn't this weak as a comic relief, so I can excuse it as them still getting their bearings. And hey, they whip out a couple decent jokes here and there. It's a bit cliche, but I like Duncan getting Harold to wet his pants, and there's also Chris whipping out the big guns.
The History of Canada. A pop-up book, Chapter 1.
In terms of statistics, it's about what you'd expect from an early episode. The Gophers win by a hair, and an unpopular member of the Bass is voted off. In this case, Heather got everyone to vote against Eva by stealing her MP3 player, enraging her and getting everyone to hate her. All in all, I'd say this is a pretty good episode. I gravitate towards the more adventure-based episodes when I rewatch Total Drama, and episodes closer to the middle of the season, where the cast is more manageable, but still colourful. But this one had its moments, and has stuck with me since I first saw it. This is another tough verdict. Not because the episodes are equally good or anything, but because putting the Angry Beavers and Total Drama side by side isn't something most people do. They're apples and oranges, both are very tasty fruits at the end of the day. But between the two, the one I'd watch again sooner is Up All Night. It isn't one of the best episodes ever, but it's quick and efficient with all its elements, and is all around the more consistently funny. Sorry, Killer Gas, maybe next time. Goodbye for now.